Stop letting the internet convince you that dropping a mortgage payment on a custom rifle is the only way to fill your tags. Listen, the hunting industry is flooded with paid influencers pushing expensive safe queens. They look great on camera, but they fail miserably when the weather turns sideways and you actually need to send it down range. You think you know what the real American hunter is dragging into the woods right now? You are dead wrong. We pulled the raw sales data and field reports for 2025 and 2026. The numbers do not lie. What we found completely destroys the myth that you need a pristine $3,000 rig to drop a massive whitetail. Guys are leaving their fragile range toys in the truck and taking absolute workhorses into the brush. Honestly, some of the top contenders on this list are going to make the gear snobs absolutely furious. These are the top 10 hunting rifles that everyday American shooters are completely obsessed with right now. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have the Weatherby Vanguard. This is the rifle that brings top-tier precision to the working class without requiring a second mortgage. The damage to your wallet is roughly $500 to $800, which is an absolute steal for what you get. The heart of this beast is actually the Howa 1500 Action built in Japan, giving you a bomb-proof 2-lug foundation. Looking at the bolt, you get a massive M16 style extractor. This is a heavy-duty claw that bites aggressively into the rim of the cartridge case. Why does that matter? Because when you are cycling the action under stress, it rips that spent brass out of the chamber with zero chance of a double feed or a stuck case. It also features a fully enclosed bolt sleeve with 3 gas ports. If you ever pop a primer or rupture a case, those ports vent the high-pressure gas safely away from your face. Rugged and reliable, this rifle slings the screaming 6.5 300 Weatherby Magnum downrange with serious authority. The trigger snaps cleanly like a frozen pine branch snapping in half. When you touch it off, the recoil is a stubborn shove to the shoulder. The Cold Hammer forged barrel guarantees sub-minute of angle groups right out of the cardboard box, making it a tack driver right from the start. But here is the truth. It's a heavy piece of equipment. Hauling this chunk of forged steel up a mountain ridge will make your legs burn. The standard synthetic stock also feels a bit hollow in the hands, almost like cheap plastic drumsticks. However, if you are posting up in a deer blind and need reliable terminal performance, it is a solid working man rig. Moving on to number 9, we are looking specifically at the Marlin 1895 SBL. Ever since Ruger took over the manufacturing, the quality control on these lever-action platforms has reached a tier we have never seen before. The damage to your wallet is roughly $1,700, putting it squarely in the premium brush gun category. Under the hood, you get a receiver and lever that are computer machined from solid 416 stainless steel billet. Why does this matter out in the woods? Old lever guns used cast parts that could stretch or rattle over time, but this solid billet construction means the tolerances are mathematically perfect. It ensures your lockup is completely solid, and the timing of the shell lifter works flawlessly every time you cycle the action to chamber a fresh round of 45-70 government. The factory trigger snaps cleanly like a thick pane of glass fracturing under a heavy steel hammer. Sending that massive slug downrange delivers a deep, rolling punch to your shoulder that lets you know you are shooting a real cannon. I knew a guide working thick cover-up in Alaska who trusted his life to one of these exact SBL models, because the massive terminal performance out of that 19.1-inch barrel neutralized threats instantly. But let us be completely honest about that gorgeous exterior. The polished stainless finish on the SBL acts like an absolute mirror when the midday sun hits it. If you are trying to stay hidden in the sparse timber, That massive flash of reflected light will flag your position to every animal within 500 yards, ruining your element of surprise before you even raise the stock. Next up at number 8, we have the legendary Winchester Model 70. Some guys call it the rifleman's rifle. The cost to play is roughly $1,100 to $1,800, depending on if you grab the featherweight or the super grade. Slings .308 Winchester downrange with absolute authority. Under the hood, this rig relies on the massive pre-64 style controlled round feed mechanism. This means a gigantic claw extractor grabs the rim of the cartridge the split second it leaves the internal magazine. Why does that matter? Because it guarantees a flawless feed and extraction cycle, even if you are running the bolt while hanging upside down from a tree stand. The minute of angled trigger system is crisp, dropping the sear like a snapping carrot. Recoil rolls through your shoulder like a slow-moving wave instead of a sharp jab. I watched an old-timer up in Montana drag one of these through thick timber, and that controlled feed saved his bacon when a massive buck busted out of the brush. It flat out works when your adrenaline is redlining. But let us be honest about the reality of carrying this art piece. That gorgeous grade 5 walnut stock is a serious liability in rough country. The high gloss finish will show every single scratch, ding, and scrape you put on it. If you want a safe queen, it is perfect, but dragging it through the mud will make you sick to your stomach. Rolling right along to number 7, we are looking at the CVA Cascade LR. The street price is roughly $900, making it a serious contender for long-range work. This precision rig eats 7mm PRC for breakfast, giving you massive terminal performance at extended distances. Under the hood, this platform features a medium-heavy contour fluted barrel equipped with a radial muzzle brake. Why does that matter? That brake physically redirects the high-pressure expanding gases sideways before the bullet even leaves the crown, cutting the heavy recoil of Magnum loads by almost 40%. It keeps your reticle perfectly steady so you can spot your own impacts through the scope. The factory trigger snaps cleanly like a fragile icicle under heavy pressure. When you send a heavy round downrange, the recoil is just a polite shove rather than a brutal punch to the collarbone. I ran into a guy out in Colorado dropping targets at 800 yards with this exact setup, and the consistency was dead on. Sound off below if you trust this rig for your high country tags. But here is the harsh reality. Keeping this rifle fed is going to hurt. Those proprietary flush-fit magazines will drain your wallet if you want to carry spares in the field. Finding that specific factory ammunition on a random local shelf is nearly impossible during peak season. You have to stock up early, or you will be left completely empty-handed when it really counts. Stepping up the game to number 6, we have the Savage Axis 2 Pro. This is the undisputed king of the entry-level market, proving you do not need to be rich to shoot straight. Street price is roughly $489 to $689. Feeds on the wildly popular 6.5 Creedmoor cartridge with absolute consistency. Under the hood, this rifle features a floating bolt head and a thread in barrel nut for head spacing. Why does that matter? That floating bolt head self adjusts perfectly into the receiver recesses when it locks down. It ensures complete, even contact on the locking lugs, giving you the kind of sub-minute of angle accuracy that usually requires an expensive gunsmith to achieve. The famous factory trigger breaks like a thin sheet of ice under pressure. When you send a round downrange, the recoil jumps like a startled buck against your shoulder. I watched a teenager at a local range absolutely embarrass guys, shooting $3,000 custom rigs, and all he had was a factory Savage and some cheap boxed ammunition. But let us be real about the cost-cutting measures here. The polymer magazine release clip feels incredibly cheap, almost like it belongs on a plastic toy. If you fumble a reload with frozen fingers during a late-season hunt, that brittle plastic tab is prone to snapping right off and ruining your day. Stepping up the game to number 5, we are looking at the Christensen Arms Ridgeline FFT. The damage to your wallet is roughly $2,000. This is a serious mountain rig for guys who count every ounce. But wait until you see the absolute monster we have waiting at number 1. Eat 7mm PRC for breakfast with surgical precision. Under the hood, this rifle features an aerograde carbon fiber wrapped barrel surrounding a 416R stainless steel core. Why does that matter? It gives you the extreme rigidity and heat dissipation of a massive bull barrel, but strips the overall weight down to a ridiculous 5.3 pounds. You can hike 20 miles into the backcountry without feeling like you're dragging a heavy steel anchor over the ridges. The frictionless factory trigger breaks like a frozen pane of glass, shattering under a heavy hammer. When you send a heavy round downrange, the side baffle brake turns the recoil into a firm, rolling push instead of a brutal punch to the collarbone. I watched a guy out in the Rockies drag one of these up a near vertical incline, and the massive weight savings kept his heart rate low enough to make a perfect offhand shot on a massive bull elk. But let us talk about the brutal reality of that carbon fiber finish. That woven barrel looks amazing out of the cardboard box, but if you scrape it hard against jagged granite or slip on a scree field, you can permanently gouge that carbon matrix. It is a premium piece of gear that requires you to actually baby it when you are operating in rough country. Now we get serious with number 4, the Bergara B14 Wilderness Ridge. Sets you back roughly $979. This is the thinking man's custom rig, giving you premium performance without draining your bank account. Slings 308 Winchester downrange with absolute authority. Under the hood, this rifle utilizes a semi-weight barrel contour paired with a coned bolt nose. Why does that matter? That heavier barrel profile drastically reduces heat-induced stringing when you are firing multiple rounds, while the coned bolt nose physically guides the cartridge perfectly into the chamber without jamming. It gives you the rock-solid reliability of a tactical platform disguised as a traditional hunting gun. The factory trigger drops the sear like a heavy vault door slamming shut. Sending a round downrange delivers a dull, heavy shove to your shoulder rather than a sharp crack. I watched a guy out in the freezing rain in the Pacific Northwest dragging this exact setup through the mud, and the sniper grade finish brushed off the abuse like it was absolutely nothing. But let us talk about the brutal reality of hauling this beast around. This is a remarkably heavy platform for a standard hunting rig, weighing in at roughly 7.5 pounds before you even mount an optic. If you are climbing steep elevations, that extra mass becomes a serious ergonomic liability, turning your rifle into a heavy steel crowbar that absolutely wrecks your shoulder by the end of the day. Entering the elite tier at number 3, we have the Browning X-Bolt II Western Hunter LR. The damage to your wallet is roughly $1,500, putting it squarely in the premium factory rifle class. Slings the massive 300 PRC cartridge downrange with absolute authority, giving you maximum terminal performance at extended distances. Under the hood, this rifle features a 60-degree bolt lift instead of the traditional 90-degree throw. Why does that matter? That shallow upward angle keeps your right hand completely clear of large optic bells when you are racking the action under stress. You can cycle a fresh round incredibly fast while maintaining your exact cheek weld without ever bashing your bare knuckles against the scope rings. The fully adjustable DLX factory trigger snaps cleanly like a thick pane of safety glass, fracturing under a heavy steel hammer. Touching off a magnum round delivers a deep rolling shove to your shoulder rather than a sharp crack, thanks to the massive factory muzzle brake. I watched a guy down in Texas using this exact setup to neutralize a fast-moving feral hog out in the thick brush, and that smooth cycling action gave him the crucial edge he needed. But let us be completely honest about a frustrating performance quirk. The proprietary rotary magazines are incredibly finicky if you get fine dust or grit inside the housing. If you drag this rig through the dry, high desert, that internal spring binds up fast, causing annoying failure to feed malfunctions when the system runs bone dry. Number 2, we are looking at the Walther RS3. Street price is roughly $2,500, making it a serious piece of equipment for the dedicated marksman. Slings the proven 6.5 Creedmoor downrange with terrifying consistency, delivering massive terminal performance on medium-sized game. Diving into the mechanics, this rig runs a true 2-stage match trigger, featuring fully adjustable sear engagement. Why does that matter? It lets you pull through a smooth first stage until you hit a mathematically perfect wall, giving you absolute control over the final break. This completely eliminates the dreaded shooter flinch, ensuring your crosshairs stay completely locked on the animal when adrenaline is flooding your system. That factory trigger snaps cleanly like a piece of dry pasta snapping in the cold. Touching off a round delivers a heavy, lifeless thump to your shoulder instead of a brutal, sharp crack. I saw a guy at a long-range mountain course dropping targets at 800 yards with this exact setup, proving it is an absolute tack driver in the right hands. But here is the absolute deal breaker regarding the ergonomics. The vertical pistol grip on this chassis is ridiculously thick, feeling exactly like you are grabbing a raw piece of lumber. If you are a shooter with smaller hands, getting proper finger placement on the trigger shoe becomes incredibly awkward, forcing you to pull the rifle sideways and ruining your natural alignment in the blind. Finally, taking the absolute crown at number 1, we have the Ruger American Generation 2. Look, I know the traditionalists might scoff, but the sales data and field reports do not lie. The damage to your wallet is roughly $450 to $500, making it the most disruptive piece of hardware to hit the market in a decade. This working-class hero takes the throne because it completely redefines modern hunting value. It gives you the modular ergonomics and precision of the Christensen Arms Ridgeline at number 5, but with a rugged, bomb-proof reliability that puts the high-priced Walther at number 2 completely to shame, all for a fraction of the cost. Slings the incredibly popular 6.5 Creedmoor downrange with terrifying consistency, delivering massive terminal performance on medium-sized game. Diving into the mechanics, this rig utilizes a 3-lug bolt design that gives you a short 70-degree bolt throw. Why does that matter? That shallow upward angle allows you to run the action incredibly fast without punching your bare knuckles into the ocular bell of a massive modern optic. It keeps your eye perfectly glued to the glass, so you can spot your own impact and immediately send a follow-up shot downrange if needed. The adjustable factory trigger snaps cleanly like a brittle winter branch, crushing under a heavy steel toe boot. Touching off a round delivers a blunt, aggressive push to your shoulder rather than a sharp crack, thanks to the factory-installed radial muzzle brake. I watched a guy out in the frozen Pennsylvania timber drop a massive whitetail with this exact setup, and that splatter finish stock gave him a rock-solid grip even when his gloves were completely coated in solid ice. Look, the industry wants you to believe you need to spend $3,000 to be a successful hunter in the modern era. The data we just went through proves that is an absolute lie. Whether you are dragging a $400 entry-level rig through the frozen mud or hiking the high country with a premium carbon fiber mountain rifle, it all comes down to knowing your gear. Stop chasing the marketing hype and start putting practice rounds downrange. Your ability to read the wind and control your breathing matters infinitely more than the expensive logo stamped on your receiver. If you want the raw truth without the fluff, lock it in right here.